So this slide shows the generic cognitive model. If you've ever taken a class in CBT or you've ever done cognitive therapy, this is basically the model behind cognitive therapy. Again, it's very simple. The idea is that what you think will be related to how you feel and what you do. So if you think this voice is from, you're hearing a voice, stuff happens in our life, we think about it. This is the voice of Satan. That fear, that's going to make you feel, afraid and helpless, and you might comply with what the voice is telling you, because this is a super omnipotent being who can follow through on threats they might be making to you, so you better comply. So if you think it's the voice of Satan, that can lead to these kinds of behaviors. So here's a treatment target for us. Let's talk about not whether people are hearing voices, they're hearing voices, but who is the voice? Is the voice in your head or outside your head? What's the source of the voice? Is the voice powerful? If you can't get them to give on whether it's Satan, get them to give on whether it can really hurt you. And I'll talk about techniques to challenge these thoughts. If you change these thoughts, you change these behaviors. So a lot of this treatment is to share with people the fact that this is how we all are, that what we think influences how we feel and what we do. And in the handout I provided, there's a handout I actually sit down and read together with people that shows the generic cognitive model and has a thought there that's not a helpful thought, that if you think this, you'll feel unwanted feelings and do unwanted behaviors. And if you change it to a more helpful thought, you can change your feelings and change what you do. Now, this actually takes a lot more time than you would think it might take, just to get people to differentiate between thoughts and feelings. So you say, tell me a thought. Well, I thought I felt sad. No, that's a feeling. That's labeling a feeling. So getting people to differentiate thoughts and feelings is actually quite a challenge. And then the next step is building links between thoughts and how people feel. That's another challenge, to illustrate this for people. But the hope and the enthusiasm of this approach is that we all control how we think. We can change how we can think. We may not be able to change situations and stuff that happens to us, but we change how we cope with it. And we can teach people to change how they think as a way to cope with things. It's a tool that's really neglected in people who have psychotic disorders. Now, to characterize thoughts, don't characterize them as positive or negative. It's insulting for many people to say if you just think positively, you can overcome schizophrenia. That's like, do affirmations every day and you'll overcome this severe mental illness that's devastated your dreams. That's a horrible thing to lay on someone. If you just, that's kind of like blame. You got to watch out with cognitive therapy, because you don't want people to think you're blaming them, that if you just didn't think this way, you wouldn't have any problems. And this is the highest risk for doing that. Don't think badly, think goodly. Don't think negative, think positive, and everything will work out. It's better to talk about the accuracy, or I even like the helpfulness or unhelpfulness of beliefs. So, is that thought helping you get your girlfriend, or is that thought in the way of you getting a girlfriend? Is that thought helping you stay out of the hospital, ride the bus, do whatever your goal is, or is that thought in the way of it? A lot of times you can't get people, if it's too close to a psychotic belief, you might not get anywhere with accuracy, because you'll just get in a debate about evidence. But you might not just agree to disagree on whether things are happening, but talk about whether it's helping them or not. Is it helpful to think this is happening every day, all day, every time you go out? So, talk about helpful thoughts. Cognitive restructuring or cognitive therapy or cognitive behavioral therapy is all about changing thoughts. So changing unhelpful thoughts to helpful thoughts, or changing inaccurate thoughts to accurate thoughts. It's a very normalizing intervention. We all make... I've seen tapes of Aaron Beck, who developed cognitive therapy, doing this work with people who have psychotic disorders, and he never says you. He always says we. We make mistakes in our thinking. I hate when I do that. I always do get too black and white in my thinking. That's all or none thinking. I'm jumping to conclusions. Those are just mistakes we all make in our thinking. It's a normalizing intervention. It's a very humanistic intervention that we all make mistakes, and let's just look at the mistakes we might be making and change it and see if they're good thoughts or not that are helping us. So examine the evidence for and against the thought, do behavioral experiments, and alternative therapy. These are very simple interventions. They're easy to learn, and they're easy to teach to people. Examining the evidence. Well, let's take that thought that that voice is from God. You know, what evidence do you have that it's from God? It sounds like God's voice. It's a booming voice. You know, okay, put that in the evidence for column. What else? Well, he says he's God. You know, what else? You know, then what evidence do we have it might not be? Okay? Maybe we could do a behavioral experiment to provide evidence that it might not be. So a behavioral experiment would be, let's put a Walkman, or, you know, headphones on and see if you hear the voice anymore, if we make it go away. Does it go away with medications? Does it go away when you watch TV? Does it go away when you get busy going out of the house? Well, how did you, if it does go away, you showed them they can control the voice, which feels a lot better because you have control over it. It doesn't control you. And you start saying, well, I don't understand. How come you can make God go away with headphones and listening to music? Isn't God supposed to be an all-powerful being? You know, you're more powerful than God because you turned off the voice. Or how does medications affect something that's outside your body when medications are something you put inside your body? You just hand back those kinds of discrepancies. And alternatives. For every event, there's more than one possible explanation. What else might it be? What else could it be? So you neutrally examine thoughts and look for evidence for and against, and you try to test them out. One of the ways we do that is with the 3 C's. This is a very easy way to teach people about checking thoughts. So you say, let's catch the thought. What's the automatic thought? What's going through your mind? Check it and change it. So 3 C's. Catch it, check it, change it. People get this on a card. They learn it. They practice it with homework. Eventually people start to internalize this and say, I wasn't feeling well, or I didn't do a behavior that I wanted to do. I didn't get on the bus, or I got really mad when something happened at the house and I stormed out. And they say, well, what was going through your head? Catch it. What was going through your head? What were you thinking? I was thinking that he was thinking this about me, or he could read my mind, or whatever. And it made me angry and I stormed out. So those feelings or unwanted behaviors are the red flag that people should catch their thought, examine the evidence, and change it. So, well, maybe he wasn't thinking that about me, or maybe that wasn't happening. Do alternatives therapy. Check out the evidence, and then you can change behaviors. And you give homework in the form of thought records. This is a thought record using the 3 C's. So you give people a piece of paper with examples like this on it and some empty columns, and you say, let's practice this. So you walked in a room and people stopped talking. You got afraid and you left and felt isolated. Those are the red flags. You had an unwanted, unhelpful feeling and you left the room and you were more isolated. Unwanted behaviors. Unhelpful. So what was your thought? Catch it. They were thinking about me. Check it out. Well, I might have been mind reading or jumping to conclusions. Those are mistakes in thinking that I make sometimes. Just looking at me doesn't mean they were talking about me. The last time I asked them and they weren't. So just looking at evidence that the thought might not be accurate, and then change it. They're probably talking about something else. Even if they are talking about me, who cares? So what's a more helpful thought that might make you less afraid, angry, and isolated? Here's another behavioral experiment. I had a guy who thought people were stealing his mail. So you do a behavioral experiment. Someone's taking my mail. Devise an experiment. This is where it gets fun and creative. We sent him a letter. I sat in the office, I addressed him a letter, and I mailed it to his house with him. We put it in the mailbox. The letter arrived. If it arrives, no one stole that letter. So is someone stealing your mail? Maybe not. It turns out, so maybe that belief's not accurate. So you do these little experiments to check out whether things, this actually, he kind of loopholed me in this one because he said it's only Social Security Administration checks. You know how if they're like delayed one day, people are like, they cut me off or they catastrophize. And they talk about catastrophizing and bad, is that thought helpful or how is it? Let's wait one more day. Let's check out the evidence. Last time you thought this, it came again. So what are you thinking about this? How accurate is that belief? So then we got a Social Security Administration envelope and we sent that one and it came. So it wasn't that anyone was stealing his Social Security check.